Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Israel remains determined to achieve victory as it faces enemies on 7 separate fronts. Iraq and Iran warn of prospects of wider escalation as Hezbollah continues to launch repeated salvos of rockets, missiles, and UAVs against northern Israel. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant announces that Israel will not accept France as a mediator vis-à-vis Lebanon, following French President Emmanuel Macron's tripartite proposal. Israel remains determined to achieve victory as it faces enemies on 7 separate fronts. In an address to a division commander's course graduation ceremony, IDF Chief of General Staff, Lieutenant General Hilzi Halevi, asserted that Israel will not relent until its war objectives are achieved.
ההיסטוריה מלמדת שההכרעה מושגת באמצעות אמונה בצדקת הדרך, גם אם ארוכה היא. המלחמה הנוכחית מרובת חזיתות. יש בה שלבים שאינם ניכרים תמיד בזמן אמת. בכל שלב צה"ל מתארגן מחדש ובהתאם להערכות המצב לטובת השגת מטרות המלחמה. אנחנו נחושים להביא להכרעת גדודי חמאס, נחושים מאוד במלחמתנו בחיזבאללה. נשיב את תושבי הצפון והדרום בביטחון לבתיהם ונמשיך לפעול להשבת החטופים, את החיים לחיק משפחותיהם ואת החללים לקבר ישראל. זוהי חובתנו לעם ישראל וגם לרעיון הציוני.
IDF forces continue to make extensive gains throughout the Gaza Strip, with Division 162 pushing deeper into the Gazan border town of Rafah, while in tandem, Division 99 confronts dozens of Hamas terror operatives in the central Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, in Rafah, Southern Command Commander Major General Yaron Finkelman held a situational assessment in the field with the commanding officer of Division 162, Brigadier General Itzik Cohen, during the course of which he asserted the IDF's determination to achieve its goals.
התוכנית ברורה קדימה, ועם איכות הכוחות ואיכות המפקדים שיש פה, אנחנו ממשיכים להתקדם עד שנשיג את המטרות שלנו פה, הן ברורות לכם, ואתם מביאים אותם בהצלחות רבות, בהשתנות, בלמידה, בדוגמה אישית ובנחישות קדימה.
Turning to Israel's northern front, where Hezbollah continues to repeatedly launch scores of salvos at Israel's northern communities, causing damage to civilian infrastructure and sparking wildfires at a time when temperatures in northern Israel average 38 degrees Celsius or 102 degrees Fahrenheit.
בשעה האחרונה נשמעו מספר אזעקות בגזרת העיר קריית שמונה וסביבתה. בשלב זה אנחנו מטפלים במספר זירות נפילה עם כוחות ההצלה הנוספים. הקבלנים שלנו מטפלים בזירות. ואחת הזירות היה פגיעה במבנה שהתושבים שלו עזבו את העיר אחרי פגיעה הקודמת. וככה אני קורא לכל תושבי העיר להישמע להנחיות פיקוד העורף, הנחיות מצילות.
While Hezbollah persists in its belligerent fire toward Israel's northern sector, the IDF is responding by striking hard at the Iranian proxy's military infrastructure and operatives throughout southern Lebanon. Moreover, the IDF concluded a 2-week exercise along the northern front, preparing its forces for an all-out war with Hezbollah. The exercise simulated a combat scenario at varying ranges, while emphasizing the capabilities of movement in complex terrain, advancement along mountainous routes, the activation of multifaceted fire, and combat in various terrain. And while Israel prepares to confront the northern threat, the Islamic Republic of Iran, as well as Iraq, have jointly warned that war between Hezbollah and the IDF would essentially mean a broad regional conflagration.
وتطرقنا إلى الإشارات الخطيرة والتي نتلقاها من احتمال الهجوم على جنوب لبنان وتوسيع رقعة الحرب إلى لبنان. لا سامح الله إذا حدث هجوم على جنوب لبنان فإن هذا سوف يؤثر على عموم المنطقة، وتوسيع الحرب خطر ليس فقط على لبنان ولكن خطر على المنطقة. تباحثنا هذا الموضوع.
ایران و عراق دو رکن ثبات منطقه‌اند. ایران و عراق دارای مسئولیت منطقه‌ای برای تحکیم پایه‌های امنیت و صلح در منطقه هستند و به این مسئولیت به خوبی آشنا هستند و تاریخ چند دهه گذشتم نشان داده که دولت عراق بعد از رفتن دیکتاتور از این سرزمین پاک نشان داد که در این عرصه بسیار جدی است و ایران و عراق دو شریک پایدار در این عرصه هستند و باقی خواهند ماند.
Meanwhile, in Washington, U.S. State Department spokesman Matthew Miller highlighted the Biden administration's extensive efforts to de-escalate the situation along Israel's northern front with Lebanon.
So we're going to continue to work to try to advance calm in the north of Israel and achieve a diplomatic resolution that would allow the tens of thousands of Israelis who've been displaced from their homes and the tens of thousands of Lebanese who've been displaced from their homes to return home. We continue to believe that a diplomatic resolution is the best way to, that a ceasefire in Gaza is the best way to achieve that diplomatic resolution. You heard the Secretary say that while he was in the region. It's one of the reasons why we are pursuing it so aggressively. And this is something that we discussed in every meeting the Secretary had while he was in with partners in the region.
It is important to explain that the Biden administration's belief that a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip would essentially end Hezbollah's blatant aggression against Israel does not take into account Israel's national security considerations, since Hezbollah's presence along Israel's border in breach of UN Security Council Resolution 1701 forces Jerusalem to act irrespective of the situation in the Gaza Strip. Moreover, it is important to remember that Hezbollah launched its cross-border hostilities against Israel on October 8th, which was roughly 2 weeks prior to the IDF's ground maneuver into the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, irrespective of those facts, the Biden administration is pushing for a diplomatic solution that would de-escalate the Hezbollah-instigated hostilities against Israel.
It remains the case that it is very difficult to achieve that diplomatic resolution while there is ongoing conflict in Gaza. And we've seen Hezbollah continue to take really aggressive strikes across the border. You saw fires break out in northern Israel yesterday, as we saw last week as a result of strikes that Hezbollah took. It remains an extremely concerning situation that we're trying to resolve. But again, a ceasefire in Gaza would be the best way, in our assessment, to advance a meaningful resolution in the north of Israel, along that border.
Alongside the American efforts to end Hezbollah's hostilities against Israel, French President Emmanuel Macron, while giving a statement to the media on the sidelines of the G7 summit, voiced a shared vision by the G7 leaders on the situation vis-à-vis the Gaza Strip and Lebanon respectively.
Une vision commune, ce qui était important et ce qui n'était pas acquis il y a encore quelques semaines, d'avoir à Gaza la présence de l'autorité palestinienne le jour d'après, et une réaffirmation très claire du soutien aux deux États et d'un règlement politique de la situation. Au-delà de cela, nous avons tous partagé notre préoccupation sur la situation à la frontière avec le Liban. Et en particulier avec les États-Unis d'Amérique, nous avons acté le principe d'une trilatérale Israël, États-Unis, France pour avancer sur la feuille de route que nous avons proposée. Nous ferons de même avec les autorités libanaises.
In response to President Macron's remarks, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant released a statement on his X account in which he expressed his disdain of the way France has adopted hostile policies against Israel. Jerusalem's top defense officials stressed that the position of France has forced an Israeli decision not to be party to a trilateral framework proposed by France in relation to seeking out a diplomatic solution for Hezbollah's hostilities versus Israel. Meanwhile, in a show of disunity within Jerusalem's political ranks, senior Israeli foreign ministry officials have voiced their disapproval of Defense Minister Gallant's statement. They highlighted that alongside disagreements with France, the allegations directed towards Paris are simply untrue. The Foreign Ministry asserted that just a few weeks ago, France took an active role in defending Israel's skies against Iran's missile attack against Israel, and since the beginning of the war, Paris spearheaded a clear position of condemning and sanctioning Hamas, alongside additional actions that resulted in the European Union sanctioning Iran for its ballistic missiles program. The senior officials concluded their remarks by stressing that the Foreign Ministry in Jerusalem will persist in its efforts to safeguard Israel's interests along its northern border vis-à-vis all relevant actors. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. It is important to highlight that TV7 Israel is a donation-based non-profit ministry with all of our productions available free of charge. Therefore, we would deeply appreciate it if you'd consider making a donation. You can do so via our website, www.tv7israelnews.com. Separately, I'd like to encourage you, pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hessen, wishing you a Shabbat Shalom u'Mevorach, and God willing, we'll see you during our upcoming TV7 Israel updates. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.